What's up, guys? Abdullah here from Ather Gaming, and I'm coming at you guys with a new segment. And what it is our 5 best decks that we think you can play to counter the metagame. Now, these might not be the best decks in the format, but they are decks that we think give you flexibility to be able to tech your deck out, to be able to beat your local, regional, or even national YCS metagame. These are the decks that we're going to do, and there's going to be a countdown. So today will be the number 5 deck on our list. I know that other videos will just give you 5 decks and that's it, talk about it briefly, but I think that we should give a lot more, more insight into it and just see like how we would tech these decks and what we would play. Again, guys, everything is super subjective to what your local metagame is, but these are the 5 best decks that I think you really have space to tech with and to really be able to build to counter the metagame. So we'll get right into the deck, guys, but before that, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our patrons, guys. I want to give an even bigger shout out to everybody who's in our Discord group, guys. Check that out. It's really bumping. And to all our subscribers, thank you very much, guys. 2K was fantastic. The giveaway was great. We have another one coming up at 3, so make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys comment. And let me know what you guys think is going to be on this list, because the number 5 deck is Trickstars. Trickstars are a deck that came out last year in Code of the Duelist, and they're a deck that have been a relevant part of the metagame for a very long time. Now, they've changed from this like weenie burn deck to more of a control deck that can incorporate all these different engines, and that really speaks on the strength of the Trickstar archetype. Before, people were combining it with Sky Strikers. We're not going for the Sky Striker route. I try to keep this deck as budget-friendly as possible. There are a few cards in here that might be a little pricey, but they're cards that I expect to drop in price or cards that I expect you to be able to find adequate replacements for quite easily. So we'll get right into the deck profile, guys. We play the triple Candina. This is Stratos for the deck. There's not too much to really say about Candina other than the fact that this card searches everything, and with the more Trickstar cards that come out, Candina becomes insane. This is what we're normal summoning, and this is the reason why we can play a deck that really focuses on so many different tech choices, kind of like the way Salamangreats functions, where we can play like one card that searches out everything for us, so we can play these other cards that would be inconsistent other ways, but in this deck are super great. So Candina's nuts. This card searches out the entire archetype. This is the card we want to be normal summoning. 1800 attack is relevant just because of some other inclusions into the deck, and it does really pressure. Every time your opponent activates a spell or trap card, we're going to burn them for 200. If they have the field spell, if we have the field spell up, we're going to burn them for 400. The way this deck really functions is, and it's interesting, you don't really need your extra to finish games. You just Candina, burn your opponent for a bit with Lycoris, continue the game, and on your turn, you just kill them. So that's it. 3 Candida, absolutely, we got to play it. We play the triple Lycoris. Now, Lycoris is insane. What it really lets us do is, reuse the same Candina that we have, because you can target a Trickstar monster you control and return it to your hand, and Lycoris will special itself. Lycoris doesn't return for cost, which means you can reveal multiple Lycorises at once. You guys all know that. It's super basic. Now, the reason why, and of course, Lycoris is the most annoying Trickstar monster. It's the one that burns you for 200 every time you add a card to your hand. And if you have the field spell, it's going to burn you for 4. Now, the big thing is, why are we playing 3 Lycorises over 2? Well, the reason why is I really don't want to be like Candina searching for Lycoris. I want to just hard open the Lycoris in the first place. Like, this is a card that I want to see as many times as possible and as often as possible, just because I want to dodge cards like Infinite Impermanence or cards like Effect Failure. So Lycoris is insane for that. Not just that, but I really want to be using my Candina search on something like a Reincarnation to ensure a disruption or, an interruption. So I want to hard open the Lycoris mainly, which is why I'm playing the 3. You oftentimes might not go through 3 Lycorises, but this deck really ends the game on its second turn. So your first turn, you kind of stop your opponent's second turn, you kill him, and you need multiple Lycorises to do that. So, which is why I play 3. I want to see this card in my opener, and it's a card that I don't mind seeing multiples of.
So then why do you think some people would be willing to play 2 Lycorises?
I think it's because that people are playing other engines in the deck, like the Sky Striker engine, so Lycoris becomes less relevant. Not just that, it's like oftentimes you'll only see the 2 Lycorises because you'll search the Lycoris, because you'll open like Anchors, Engages, etc., things like that, or you'll open the Reincarnation. But with our deck, the way it really functions is that we really want to we want to see this card, because we can't really afford to use a Candina search on the Lycoris. We want to use the Candina search on a Reincarnation or on a Carobane, which is a card we'll get into later. So, I really just want to hard open the Lycoris. Candina being able to toolbox is fantastic, but the unfortunate thing is it comes at a cost, and that cost is your normal summon. So because of that, I can only search Lycoris or Corobane, so I would like to open up the chances of seeing those cards. So I play triple Lycoris. Again, it's a card that I don't mind seeing multiples of. The next card we play is the one of Trickstar Lilybell. This card is insane because when it's added to your hand, you can special it. You guys see the Orcus variants are playing this card. Just to put a body on board, it can attack directly, and when it deals damage to your opponent, you can target a Trickstar monster in your graveyard, add it back to your hand. Usually you'll be adding the Lycoris back, and you'll be able to do some crazy combos that really help you kill your opponent. The thing with Lilybell is it really is a finisher in this deck. We'll burn them for 4k on their turn, and then we'll Lilybell on our turn, just kind of end the game and close out from there. It also lets us do some crazy nuanced stuff with cards like Topologic Bomber Dragon, where we can Lycoris, bounce the Lilybell, and then trigger the Lilybell, specialing it, and do all sorts of crazy stuff. Lilybell is really useful for that. It is a finisher. It is a card that lets us put more bodies on board to be able to link summon, but really you just use it for the damage output, and playing the one is fine. We're not playing Desire, so we don't have the risk of banishing it. Even if you play Desires, I would still just play one of this card. The next card we play is the newest inclusion to the Trickstar arsenal, and it's Trickstar Corobane.
Oh, baby.
The way I've had this card described to me is that it's Honest and Cyber Dragon put into one, but it's a little bit better than both of those cards. So the first thing about Corobane is if you don't control any monsters, or the only monsters you control are Trickstar monsters, you can special summon Corobane. And when a Trickstar monster that you control battles, you can discard the Corobane, and that monster gains attack equal to its original attack until the end phase of the turn. Now, this is super useful because the joke was that Trickstars can't kill anything with more than 1800 attack, and Corobane literally lets them hit those numbers. So because of that, Corobane is an inclusion that I think you have to play at 3, because again, this is a card that you can use each effect of Corobane once per turn. So I can special a Corobane and then discard a Corobane in the same turn. So I don't mind, again, playing 3 and seeing multiples in my hand. I want to see this card because, with Thunder Dragon Colossus existing, I'm not going to have free access to these cards, so I want to see them. Not just that, but, Corobane, and if I open the Corobane with a Candina, then now it opens up Candina to be able to search the Lycoris. Which is something that's super useful, and I think that so I think it's something that a lot of people are ignoring, just the fact that playing more of these cards and seeing them also is people will play lower counts of Corobane and Lycoris, right? Just so that you can open up flexibility and see other cards. Well, if you play higher counts, you are also essentially seeing other cards because Candina doesn't have to search the minimum copies that you're playing. So that's the 3 Corobane we play. This card is insane. It helps us make link plays, link climb, but the biggest thing is it helps us push damage, and that's what we're doing. Turn 2, we're killing our opponent.
So then it's like Bujingi Crane in terms of the hand effect?
Yeah, it's like Crane, Honest, those kind of hand effects. Trickstars finally got theirs, but it also special summons itself, which those cards don't do, so it has even more utility and applications than they do.
Okay, so then it can special summon itself if you control no monsters or all of them are Trickstars, right?
Or all of them Trickstars, exactly. So this card is nuts. It's like Scorpio, but better. So we'll go into the next... No, those are all the Trickstar monsters we play. We play the original 3, the 7. We're playing 10 Trickstars total. And now we move into the hand traps. We play the 3 Joel and Lock because of the absolutely insane combo of basically OTK or FTK and your opponent with Joel Reincarnation. It's also a card that synergizes with our deck and our deck can inherently play. But in this current format, it's very powerful. Just because danger decks are a problem. They put up big bodies on board, and drawing them, kind of makes them stop their turn. I'm not gonna go out and say it passes their turn, but for the most part it does. And with our deck, comboing Joel with Reincarnation is killer. So we can play 3. Why not play 3? It just works really well on our deck, and it's a great card in the meta currently.
One of the most skillful cards in the game currently.
Absolutely, Joel is insane. Now we're moving forward. We're playing the triple Ash Blossom. We play Ash because it has the most coverage, and we're not playing Thanos Dragon, so we have to bump up our hand trap count up to 3 just so we can see them more reliably. Ash has the most coverage, and because of that, we'll play this card at 3. This card is nuts, guys. It just got reprinted as a common. It's super accessible to everybody. Play 3 of this card. Moving on, those are all the hand traps we play. Just those 6. I guess you count Corobane as a hand trap if you wanted, but these are the hand traps that we're playing. As a whole, hand traps aren't that powerful in this format, so we're playing the hand traps that are either the most, have the largest coverage, like Ash Blossom, or just have the most impact, like Joel and Lockbird. Now we're going into cards that are basically hand traps and help us improve our matchups against Salamangreat greatly. Greatly, yeah. We play the triple Dino Wrestle Pankratops. This is one of my favorite cards in the game, and I think that it makes it easy to play this deck, even if you don't have Thanos Dragon or Phantasme. And it is a card that I think it's so powerful that I was just thinking in my other deck list, why am I not just playing this card in my main deck? And if you think about it, a lot of the cards that this deck struggles to deal with, Pankratops just answers. Like, it struggles against Ultimate Conductor Triangle. Pankratops outs Ultimate Conductor Triangle. And now I understand that, like, Dinos is not the most, like, relevant deck currently, but that is a real threat. Like, you cannot beat a Tyranno. Not just that, but putting a free body on board and being able to run over your opponent is super useful. But the most important part that Pankratops, the space that it occupies is against those Orcus decks and those Azathoth Turbo decks. Pankratops gives us the main deck out to those decks that try to combo you and lock you out with Azathoth. Well, we have a Pankratops for that, and this guy just does so much more than that. A free special summon, pop a card, quick effect, 2600 attack. What's not to like about this card? Like, this card is so broken, why not just play it in the main deck?
It also helps kill floodgates too, right?
Yeah, and that's insane. Like, this deck, one of the greatest things about this deck and why I think it's a deck that is one of the 5 best decks you can really, tech for the current metagame and counter the current metagame is that it doesn't lose to floodgates the way other decks do. Like, some of them are really annoying, kind of like there can be only one. And Pankratops is just an out to that. If you have a problem and he can't solve it, you're probably not winning the game. But we have him there for those problems that he can't answer. And the next card we have for problems is the Eater of Millions. So this is a card that I've grown to like more and more as we're getting into cards that have battle immunity or, card destruction immunity. Eater of Millions, and I'm talking about the one big culprit for this deck, the bane of this deck's existence, which is Thunder Dragon Colossus. The problem with Thunder Dragon Colossus is he doesn't have the quick effect or disruption, so we can just quickly banish him with Eater of Millions. The card has a lot of utility in this deck, and even though we are playing Extravagance, it doesn't matter because once you resolve the first Eater, usually it puts you significantly ahead of your opponent and lets you set up for the game shot, which is why we play the Eater. The three Pankratops and the 2 Eater ensure that we see at least one of them going second, which is why I play that. Then we play the 1 Scythe. We're playing Sanctum. Scythe is broken, but I don't want to play multiples of it just because it sucks drawing this card, and I really don't want to do it. We play the Scythe. Sanctum helps us force our opponent to pass their turn. It's basically like D-Barrier, but better. It works against Link monsters, and the greatest thing about Scythe is 2200 attack is relevant. It can beat over some monsters.
Would you be willing to play Morale Attack or no?
I don't want to see these cards, and I really only want to be Sanctuming out the Scythe. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, playing a second target is only relevant if, like, the game goes long enough, and the way the deck is constructed is we can just kill our opponent after we resolve the Sanctum.
So another important thing is that, we're going to get into this later on, but Sanctum is not a once per turn. So if your opponent does ash it, you can just activate another.
Yeah, the card is a little
which is very fair.
So we'll go into the next spell we play is the triple Trickstar Light Stage, and on a related note, the double terraforming. Light Stage is insane just because it lets us toolbox, it lets us get to Carabay, lets us get to Lilybell, Candina, Lycoris, everything that's not the traps. And the greatest thing about it is it helps our matchup against back row heavy decks because it can lock it down. This is one of the reasons I actually play the deck, just because of how powerful Trickstar Light Stage is. When we were talking about in the Orcus package, like playing Trickstars, one of the greatest benefits was playing the Light Stage. So we play Light Stage because we want to play as many copies of this card as possible. It was the Colossus, but that's okay. The card is still broken. Next card we play is the Triple Call by the Grave. Now this card is insane because against decks like Sky Striker, like if they have Ray, the matchup becomes very difficult. If they don't have Ray, it becomes super easy. Or a lot more winnable. So Call by the Grave is great. Great for hitting Bailings, great for hitting Jack Jaguar, great for hitting Sunlight Wolves. We're going to be grinding against those decks, so this really helps us win. Not just that, it helps our Candina go through in the sense that you can't Ash or Droll us. And furthermore, if they have a Colossus in grave, Call by the Grave becomes super useful because it basically stops the Colossus for a turn. The card is nuts. Like, I don't have to explain why this card's a $5 common right now. And it, on our turn, it acts as protection, and on our opponent's turn, it acts as a pseudo trap card. The next inclusion is the Pot of Extravagance. Now, I'm going between 2 and 3 in this deck. Currently, this is one of the more expensive cards in the deck, but I expect this card to go down about $50 Canadian soon. So, you know what, guys, pick it up when it hits that point. The Pot of Extravagance is insane because it lets us, we don't really care about extra deck, and lets us draw 2 cards for basically free, just to do it at the beginning of our main phase, and that's fine because we're not playing any other draw cards, which brings me to my point of why I'm only playing 2 instead of the 3. I don't want to draw Extravagance off Extravagance. Now, I understand that, like, the odds of that happening are very low, and, like, we really want to see this card, but I'm a coward, and I feel like if I draw Extravagance off Extravagance, I'm really sad. I don't want to resolve multiples of these in a duel if I can help it. So, I'm only playing the 2, and we tested it fine, and it did great against all the decks in the metagame, so I don't think I would ever change this. You could play 3, but again, I'm a coward.
So for the people who don't have Extravagance, what cards would you recommend?
You would just play Pot of Desires, which does the
instead?
exact same thing. Like, essentially does the exact same thing. Your extra deck will be a little bit safer, but your main deck suffers a lot more. But this deck is so consistent that it can win without those 10 cards that are banished off the Desires anyway. You just search first and then Desires, the way you do it in Salamangrates. So that's the biggest thing about, and like, Yeah, so you just play Desires. I just think like Extravagance is a card that really works with this deck really well. But if you don't want to play the Extravagance, you can play Desires. And I'm sure there's Trickstar lists out there that are topping playing with the Desires. So the last spell we play is Super Polymerization. This card's a blowout. You draw this card and you're in a position where you're losing, and then Super Poly just comes out of nowhere and wins you the game. We play multiple Super Poly targets in our extra deck so we don't banish all of them with Extravagance. And this card is just insane. Like, this is a win button. This is a win button. And going second against like the Danger, Guard Dragon, Thunder Dragon deck, right? That puts out 4 negates, rips like 7 cards, whatever it is. Like, you Super Poly their board, you out the entire board because you can't respond to Super Poly. Spell speed 4, whatever. So you fuse away their Colossuses, you attack their Skull. So you activate the effect of the
Starving Venom?
The Starving Venom, which is what you're summoning out from your action deck, which we'll get into. You attack their monster, you copy their Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, they negate it, you attack their Skull Dread, it crashes, it goes to the graveyard, its effect triggers, wipes their board. This card is insane, and it's a win condition by itself, and it's one of the ways we can beat the Thunder Dragon deck going second because of all the targets we play against Salamangreats. It makes them pass their turn. This card is insane. Like, we have to main it just because we can main these cards. Like, that's the craziest thing, and it's one of the reasons why I'm leaning away from Desires because I don't want to banish the copy of Super Poly because this is a win button. We play broken 1-ups. This is one of the most broken 1-ups.
So then no Scapegoat?
No Scapegoat. So at 1, it's really hard to justify the inclusion of Scapegoat, seeing that being that you'll like almost never see it, and you have to dedicate so many extra deck spots to it. But at the same time, this deck doesn't care too much about the extra deck, so you could fit it in. My biggest thing was that it conflicts with Scythe. And I want to go turn 1 Sanctum, summon this Scythe. That's the big thing. And because of that, I chose not to play Scapegoat. It is a little bit slow for what this deck is trying to accomplish. If you're playing a even slower version of Trickstars, you could definitely get away with playing the card. Personally, I think that at 1, there's been enough hits to it, and not being able to really run Extravagance consistently with Scapegoat builds is the reason why I've turned away from it. So moving on to the trap cards, we play the Triple Reincarnation. This is one of the win conditions on our deck, what we usually want to be searching off Candina, as it acts as a disruptor and an extender at the same time. So the greatest thing about this card is this card usually is free. In our deck, this is what we want to be searching with Candina, and this is with Droll and Lock. We really can abuse this card. All the lists I've seen, I've been playing 2. I want to play 3 because, guys, it doubles as disruption and as extension. Why wouldn't you play 3 of this card? It's never dead. Moving forward, we play the Triple Artifact Sanctum. This is actually one of the reasons to play this deck, is that it can just fluently and eloquently put in the Sanctum package, just because your deck doesn't suffer from playing this card because it's so consistent. And this is D-Barrier. This is the modern day D-Barrier. Stops link play, stops everything. And for 1 card, you can basically, make an entire board that your opponent can't play through, which is the Scythe. And it stops your opponent right in their tracks. This card isn't once per turn, as we were talking about before. So if they Ash your Sanctum, you just flip the second copy and you're a happy camper. Also, if they destroy this card, you get to pop a card on the field too. The card brings a lot of value and is one of the reasons why we play. This has replaced Scapegoat in my mind and for what it does. The last 2 cards we play are the Solemn Strikes. You guys can cut this card if you want. I just think Strike is insane. And Strike almost ensures our Sanctum going through. As we go Sanctum, they go Ash Blossom, we go Solemn Strike, Sanctum resolves. Or they go Gamma, the Scythe, and I strike the Gamma. This card is nuts, and it's really powerful against decks like Sky Striker and decks like Salamangreats, where you can strike, interrupt their first summon, and they really can't play from that. So that's the main deck, guys, and it is super teched out. You guys can make the changes that you guys want to. Again, tailor it to your local metagame. That's the point of this list, guys. So we'll go right into the extra deck, guys. We play the 1 Nightmare Cerberus for Link 2s and the double Nightmare Phoenix. So I only play the 1 Cerberus and the double Phoenix because Phoenix is a lot better than Cerberus in many instances, being able to, discard pop a card, pop a back row than Cerberus. So I don't really care as much if the Cerberus gets banished, but I really want to have an extra Phoenix just in case one gets banished off the Extravagance. Nightmares are super self-explanatory in what they do. I talk about them too much every video, so I'm not going to talk about them this time. We play double Holly Angel. Again, Holly Angel is one of the few cards in our extra deck we do want to see, just because it helps facilitate OTKs, and it helps facilitate getting over big monsters, link climbing, and such, which is why we play 2 Holly Angel. We really want to see this card. If you guys have played with this card, you understand its power. Basically, every time a Trickstar monster summons its link pointer, you gotta burn your opponent for 400, and it gains 200 attack until the end phase. So this card is really powerful, really useful, which is why we play 2. Those are all the Link 2s we play, guys. Now we're going to the Link 3s. We play the Triple Burst Dragon. Triple Burst is super useful because against Ultra Grace, you can kill the Melusi, negate the effect in damage step. You can run over the Sky Striker Link, negate the effect. It just provides so much utility. And as a Link 3, It's one of the best Link 3s in the game, just in what it does, being able to negate stuff and being 2400 attack, and it pierces, which is relevant in time. The next card we play is the Nightmare Unicorn. Again, super self-explanatory. It's a Nightmare monster. It's a little bit harder to make than the Phoenix, which is why we can only justify playing the 1 in the deck. It is one of the ways we out the Colossus board. So yeah, Unicorn's busted. Bomber Dragon. This card is one of Trickstar's best friends, and it will always be that way because it does a lot. It does big damage, board wipes, and it puts out a big body on the board that your opponent can't deal with, and it is kind of removal on its own. We play him with the other 2 Boral monsters. This is probably the trinity of Link 4s in our current game. And so Borreload is removal, insane against Thunder Dragons, insane against dinos, insane against decks that put out this one big boss monster. You just kind of steal with the Borreload. And then Boral Sword, which just says we end the game. We can end the game with any 3 of these cards, which is why we don't care about banishing them off our extravagance. Next card.
So then for the people who don't have Boral Sword, because it's kind of an expensive card, so what would you replace it with?
Bomber's great. You don't even need to play Boral Sword again, guys. Even the Borreload, Borreload's getting reprinted in dual power, so everybody will have access to this card at a very cheap price point. So the Bomber Dragon is just nuts, and actually it does a lot of what Boral Sword does. What you guys can actually play is you guys can play the Ningirsu, which is a really good part as well because it helps you out on outable cards for the most part. You don't need to play Boral Sword in this deck. Again, you guys won't be going through your extra deck as much as you guys think you are going into these Link 4s. It's just here for the opportunity. You can also play other Super Poly targets like Dragostapila. Speaking of Super Poly targets, that's what we're going to get into now. The Double Violet Chimera. We play the 2 because, again, Salamangreats, we really want to see it for our Super Poly because, again, it really debarriers them and it stops them from playing. Not just that, it helps us OTK because we can go, Violet Chimera, Super Poly using their Violet Chimera, and now we can hit for 10k because it treats it as 0. This is the Super Poly target we play for Salamangreats. It's insane. We play the generic Mud Dragon in the Swamp. This weekend lets a Super Poly against almost any deck and through almost any single board, and it basically makes Super Poly remove 2 cards from opponent's side of the field, while also being 1900 attack and giving a relevant effect against Sky Strikers, where it'll change its attribute to another attribute that you can call, and it'll protect your field, your monster with the same attribute as Mud Dragon from targeting. We play the Thunder Dragon Titan because it's hilarious to fuse away 3 Colossuses into your own Titan against the Pure Thunder variant, which just puts out these big bodies, which you can't really out. You can deal with 1 or 2 Colossuses, but 3 is really a problem, or 2 Colossus and a Titan is really a problem. So making your own Titan to the Super Poly kind of will just win you the game because you'll have main phase priority on the triggering of their hand effects, which means you'll get a pop-up card whenever they try to do something. And then we finally play the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, 2 dark monsters. I talked earlier how this outs the entire Danger, Thunder Dragon, and Guard Dragon board on its own. This card is an out to a lot of other things against the Orcus deck. It is a dark monster, so it requires 2 dark monsters, so you can summon this, wipe the board. This card is insane, and one of the reasons why we play Super Poly in our deck. So that's the deck, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the profile. Most of this is what we've come up with from a pure theory and testing standpoint. I don't have the year of Trickstar play as some other players do, but I think that this deck is a very solid list, and it's a deck that you can tech out, take to your regional, and get your invite because Nat season's coming up real soon, guys. So again, guys, thank you so much for checking out the video, guys. This was number 5, Trickstars. Let me know what you guys think is going to be 4, 3, 2, 1, guys. It'll be down in the description. Make sure you subscribe, guys. Check out our Discord. Check out our Patreon. It's Abdullah signing out.